What's up, everyone? It is November 25th, 2025. It's Tuesday. It's about 8:15 in the morning. The market's about to open in about an hour and 15 minutes. Figured I'd jump on here and let's kind of like analyze what's going on in these charts. So first of all, if you are liking this content, please consider dropping a comment down below. Let us know what's going on, and possibly like and subscribe. Right, it'll help our channel grow, and it's not really that much. Anyway, so let's jump in here. First, last we left off, we were over in this section right over here, and we were starting to experience a bounce before the weekend. And the weekend had definitely kind of like stepped up a little bit. So let's take a look further into, on a lower time frame, what's going on. So let's jump over to the 15-minute time frame, and let's look at exactly what happened in these charts this weekend. So first of all, this was around Friday right here, and we started to lose some volume, but then on between Saturday and Sunday, I believe we started kind of like lifting off here. Now, I want you to pay attention to this right over here. This right here is a structure that it needs to break. This becomes a change of character on the lower time frame. Okay, so what I did was I marked out exactly where, let's see here. I marked out, let's zoom out here. I marked out a yellow line here for the break of structure. Now, we've run into this before when I was talking about break of structures before. You could actually see it right up here. So here is a break of structure. Notice that it's the same exact area right here. In order for this to change direction, it needs to break this line. Notice that there was another one up top here. So what it did was it came over here, it went above it, it tried to grab onto it, it did a liquidity grab, and then it failed and went back down. Okay, it actually went a lot lower than it started from. We are kind of in the same scenario. This is exactly the same scenario right over here. So this is the area that it needs to hit, right? So if I were to label this, this is like A, this would be A, and this would be B right over here, and this would be B. So this is kind of like, a repeat kind of scenario. So what we're looking for is we are looking for this to kind of grab on here and pop up over into this section if possible. That's what I'm hoping for it to do. But, Bitcoin has been weak this whole time, with especially this drop. But again, if you were to look at in the past, some of the recoveries that it has done whenever there's a big drop, I mean, let's look over at this section right over here. You could see, like, here's a big drop over here. It came down. It broke a structure right over here, and then it pops up into this zone to kind of like take that out. And then it continues business as usual, right? Same thing over here. It came down, it pops back up in a V-shaped recovery, comes back up again. And again, you can see this all around, okay? Like, where is it actually going to? Where's it going to? It always goes back to where it came from. So every now and then, though, you'll see, like, as it drops down, it kind of hesitates a little bit. And and then it'll come back up and kind of like take that candle out. So that's what we're looking for over in this section right over here. We are looking for it to start to recover. So we've got a big break of structure over here, but we've got a lower time frame break of structure that it needs to do. So if we can get above here, then I would be looking at this section over here, like I mentioned in a previous video, for a possible short. Right. The other thing is, what I would love is I would actually love it to come back down here to take this guy out. Right. Come over here. So I am also looking for a long. So these are kind of the two scenarios that I'm looking for at this point. Now, it has, even though Bitcoin has been feeling like it's been a little bit weak compared to the fall that it's done, this is actually a pretty significant move that it moved up. It moved up about almost an 11% move, right? But we are at this point where there's a structure that needs to break, and so far it has failed. Not once, but twice it's failed this area. So could it get above here? If it does get above here, then I would be looking for this section to be hit. Also, we are looking at this trend line right over here. Now let me just adjust this trend line so that you can see exactly. Let's adjust this so that it goes like so. And the reason why I adjusted it is because if you look, these are flush. This is hit. This is hit. So what I did was, because it needed to break the structure, I decided to take a short over in this section, and I've taken profit at this point. I believe I've closed out in profit. As I got down over here, I closed in profit just because of this trend line. But the way trend lines work all the time is, or I should say most of the time, is we usually have 3 hits, right? 1, 2, 3. And then if this is the top right here of the third peak, 1, 2, 3, The fourth peak usually is lower. It's usually a little bit lower. And then we get a break. So if this comes up and comes like right around here, meaning the hump now, it looks like that, then we'll probably break this trend line. And if we break this trend line, again, what trends do is it drops down and then it pokes back up. It tries to retest that area, and then it'll either go down or it'll go up depending on what it is. But I am still looking for this area because of this wick right here to be tapped one more time. Okay, so I've got two plans here. This is kind of the if-then scenario. If we're up here, then I would be looking for maybe, you know, a possible short, right? So a short down here. And if we get down over here, I am looking for a long. Now, again, the reason why I decided to take a short in this area is because of this structure that needs to break. Okay, usually when there's resistance, there is there's a reaction. And when there's support, there's a reaction. Now, if we measure all of these moves, for example, like if I were to measure, like, let's go over to this candle. Let's go over here to this section right here. If I were to measure these candles out, so from here to here, that's about a 3% move, right? From here to here, this is about 2.5%, maybe a little bit more. Okay, let's take a measure from here to here. This is about a 4% move. So these have been pretty big moves in this section. In fact, from here to over here, this is about a 10% move. So could it be possible that, you know, if we do fail this break of structure that we're at right now, if we do fail it, could we be creating a range? And yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that we're kind of at the top of the range here, and that we work our way back down to the bottom of the range, take this candle out right over here, start to work our way back up, and then you know, work our way back up to the chart. And again, remember, this trend line is resistance, and so is this break of structure, or the structure that it needs to break. Okay, so at this point, we've got these dollar signs all over the place. At this point, this is kind of where we're at. Okay, so yeah, we'll see what this does today. And yeah, so, you know, could we possibly go over there? The other thing I want you to notice is this. There is a line here. So notice how this went up and then it came back down, right? And then look at this. This went up, came down halfway, almost a little bit more than halfway, but then it came back down and it touched right over here. See that? So here's the start. This is the start, A, right over here, right? Notice that it came back down over here. So if this were to fail over here and it comes back down right over here, if this breaks, yeah, then we're definitely coming back down over here. Okay. So now, you know, it's pretty obvious how this chart has been moving on the lower time frames. Okay. What I mean by obvious is that, you know, these lines, the chart doesn't drop like this. There are always, even in these sections right over here, there is always a bounce that happens along the way. This is the reality of, you know, the chart going down. Okay. So those of you that think that we're going to go much lower, well, this was a nice little bounce that says, hey, there's something going on here. Okay. This bounce is actually a pretty nice bounce, but it's almost looking like a mirror of this right now. So this is the true area of support. So we may come right back down over here and run it from there. Now let's go jump over to the to Ethereum. Let's go jump over to Ethereum real quick. Now Ethereum has been showing some pretty good signs of strength. It's really been bouncing pretty well. So let's take a look at what this move was. From here to over here, that's about a 13% move. And you can actually see the moves happening on the dominance chart as well. So if we go take a look at at Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum dominance, you can see that the strength in Ethereum, and that's a good sign. Here's the Bitcoin dominance chart. We are still in this channel, working our way down. Yeah, we can possibly come over here, and that is good for all alts and Ethereum to kind of make some bigger moves up. Yeah, so let's jump into the lower time frame here. I want to show you what's going on over here. There's a couple patterns that happened in here that were pretty neat. So first of all, take a look at this. This right here is actually a megaphone pattern right over here. And it started to work its way. Again, it's in the middle. Notice how the megaphone works. The middle always is important to notice. So here it came back, and then all of a sudden it broke out. And what it did was it came back into this, into the megaphone pattern. And here we are testing the top of this. Now, I don't know if this is going to continue up at this point. I mean, here is the area that it needs to come to. Actually, I think it's a little, yeah, I think this is the top right over here that it needs to come to test the break of structure. But the fact that it's come over here and it came at speed, like, let's take a look at what's going on the left side of the chart. Let me knock this down here. So take a look at this. You see where this is right here? If you were to look over to the left here, look, all of these wicks right over here. And there's some more. So it's really kind of like caught in this. And it really needs to come a little bit higher, actually. But so far, we've got our first sign of rejection on here. And this is a trend line as well. So not only did we have a megaphone pattern, but we also have a trend line that has formed. So this trend line that is formed, you could see we're kind of like riding it, right? So if we don't pop up above this hump right over here, this peak, then it could possibly break and drop lower. But again, we still got this kind of area that it needs to hit. So what we are doing, or I should say what I'm doing, is I'm really letting the chart kind of like build out a little bit more, right? We've taken this big swoop down. You can see this is where the break of structure needs to happen, right over here. Actually, this is the big one. This is the big break of structure that it needs to go into. Looks like we're coming back into the previous range. You know, can we tap and find some support over here? Yeah, I'm hoping to kind of get a better relief that's here. So yeah, so this is kind of where we're at. What I am looking for right now on Ethereum is I'm looking at this section right over here, and I am looking at this section, if you notice right over here, I'm looking at this like right in between here for a possible short and a possible long. So that's where I'm at right now. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We're running into the holidays soon. Oh, also, here's the S&P 500. Looks like we are forming this range that I was looking at. I had it marked out wrong before. This is actually the bottom of the range. This is the bottom of the range. And yeah, we've tested it quite a few times, especially in this area. See, we've got wicks that are in here. We've got touches and everything. So this really is the range right here. So could we work our way back up to the top here and just kind of like bounce in between here? That's what I'm looking for on the S&P 500. The other thing to note is that when the S&P 500 moves up, Bitcoin does move up. When the S&P 500 drops down, Bitcoin is dropping down, and it's taking everything with it. So if we've got some kind of bounce that's gonna, you know, continue its run here, let's take this right here. Let's go over here. You know, this might be another area for you to kind of like watch and see what's happening. So, okay, guys, that's about it. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, we're going to watch what's going on over here. Just to really sum up, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for this. Remember this section over here? I'm looking for this to be hit, or I'm looking for this to be hit. So if we do find some weakness over here, then we'd be going down below. If we do grab some strength, we get over here, then I would be looking for this section to be hit. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and stay safe. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.